Namaskar friends. Today we will be discussing all about vegetable oils. The three foods that I want us to avoid at all costs are number one, refined carbohydrates, which we extensively covered in our insulin adiposity obesity lecture. Vegetable oils, which we will cover in this lecture, and the third one is simple sugars, refined sugars. So today's topic is mostly going to focus on vegetable oils, and we will be discussing the deleterious health effects of vegetable oils. How over the years we have traded starvation and famine for this monstrous processed ingredient called the vegetable oils, which we use on a day-to-day basis. So it's very important to understand that the structure of vegetable oils has a lot to do with the kind of damage that it does to the body. The structure of vegetable oils can be thought of as saturated fats, or it can be thought of as unsaturated fats. And the saturation basically refers to the bonds that are there. So the more bonds there are between the molecules, the more unsaturation there is. So unsaturated can be monounsaturated, which you can think of as mostly olive oils, or the more commonly known polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are most of the seed oils and the vegetable oils. So let's see that what is the problem of polyunsaturated. But before even we go there, think about it as saturated, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Saturated includes things like coconut that grows in equatorial regions. Cocoa butter again grows in Ghana, so that's again African equatorial region. Things like ghee, now that's an animal source, or butter. Those would be the four main forms of saturated fats. And of course, back in the 80s, there was a big movement of fats are bad, saturated fats are the worst. Now we are realizing that a lot of damage can also occur from the polyunsaturated fatty acids especially. Now that is growing in the equatorial regions naturally. Okay. Then there is a little bit in the tropical regions. I would say things like India and Mexico, you'll have a lot of tropical regions. So olive and avocado are the main ones, and they are kind of healthy oils, if you will. And then there's the polyunsaturated. They will grow mostly in the temperate areas. Temperate is extreme cold. So of course, mostly Europe, North America, things of that nature. And these include all oils: sunflower, safflower, corn, your canola, your grapefruit oil, your rice bran, all those things, cottonseed oil. So basically those are polyunsaturated fatty acids. So one thing to know is that saturated fats, if you have cold weather, will freeze. So that's why you will see the ghee is very liquid, but when you turn it, leave it in a cold place, it will freeze, solid state. Same for coconut oil. If you leave it in a cold place, it will freeze. So that is because the saturated has been growing in the equatorial regions, where there is the natural state of warmth, and hence it is kept liquid in the membrane phospholipids. Now, if their natural state was liquid, then it will freeze when it is less cold. However, when you have the temperate areas where have the unsaturated fatty acids, they are naturally liquid even in cold surroundings. That's why you see the vegetable oils you have at home, sunflower oil, safflower oil, any of those oils, they are naturally liquid even in the winters. Whereas these, the saturated fats, they will turn solid because they have been growing in the winter temperate climates. So the membranes usually have these fats. So the membranes of the cell wall will not freeze, and the cells will not crack or break. There will not be a decomposition related to the cold situation. So that is the reason why the unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature, whereas the saturated fats, if you have a cold room temperature, they will turn solid. And that is very important because from that temperature sensitivity comes another point. Although they remain physically in the same state of liquid all the time, that's the good thing, right? But the bad thing is that they will change their chemical composition in response to stresses. Stresses are what? Heat in form of temperature, or air in form of oxidation, and light again, a mixture of heat and air, or temperature and oxidation. Those three are the enemy of any PUFA omega-6 unsaturated fatty oil you are seeing in a vegetable oil. So remember that portion. Now let's think about we talked about the structure. This was the structure. Now let's talk about the processing, because vegetable oils, as you know, you need 98 corns to get 5 tablespoons of vegetable oils. Obviously, on a day-to-day basis, we are not able to consume that much amount of corn, so we have to resort to the corn oil that is extensively used, or sunflower oil. The problem is of chemical concentration, exponential concentration to supraphysiologic effects. This is seen everywhere in life. Think about the cocaine. Cocaine is the synthetically produced chemical stimulant coming from coca leaves growing in South America. The indigenous people have been using the coca leaves to make tea and drinking as a stimulant, as something to boost their appetite, to help with the weight loss, to increase the metabolism. But the moment you chemically concentrate by adding chemicals and fermenting the leaves and doing all this processing, which is unnatural, then you get cocaine, which is extremely potent, highly supraphysiologically potent and lethal. That's how people die from cocaine overdose. So that is important, that anything in nature, if you eat in the natural state, it will be possibly be either good for the body or it will not kill you most of the times. But if you will try to chemically extract, isolate, manipulate, chemically concentrate the molecule and then ingest it, then there will be a lot of detrimental effects. Same thing happens for carbohydrates. The natural tubers or carbohydrates growing in the soil, those are fine. But the moment you process them as chips and bakery goods and salsa and all those things, the moment you concentrate it, then it becomes damaging to the body because of the processing that involves the industrial chemicals and the hyper concentration of those chemicals, which is supraphysiologically high doses and hence can harm the body. Evolution wise, we have not seen such high dosages in the body. So same concentration goes for processing. When you are extracting every single bit of oil from a corn or sunflower oil from a sunflower seed, the problem with that approach is that you have to exhaust all your resources to get the last drop of oil. So there comes the problem of processing of vegetable oils. So this is just the industrial manufacturing techniques that are used to extract every bit of oil. Let's look at some of the steps that are done in processing. So processing will have certain number of steps. The number one is chemical extraction. That happens from a molecule called hexane. Now hexane will be used as a chemical to draw. It's not cold processed, because cold process is the natural way. So that's why cold pressed olive oil is considered good. Anything that is cold pressed does not have the stressor of heat. Hence that is good. But if you chemically extract, you use hexane. So there is one chemical that you did not need in your body. Second, you have to heat it. Heat it so that you can get rid of the wax that is surrounding the oil. Now, third, you have to refine it. Now, refining, of course, involves a lot of chemicals, because naturally, if you get the oil, like avocado oil, it is little turbid. It is not crystal clear that you can transparently see through it. But we have double refined, triple refined. The more you refine, the more damage you cause. So refining is also there. Then they will try to, because these processes have killed all the antioxidants which are naturally present in the fruit and the seed, those antioxidants are artificially added. Things such as TBHQ, tetrabutyl hydroquinone. And then there's a lot of foaming happening. So they have to add anti-foaming agent, dimethyl polysiloxane. So these are the different things that are extracted or added. Additives, preservatives, all these things which the body would not have needed, just so that there is larger shelf life. Anything that has shelf life longer than your life, you should not eat. That is why you have to eat healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables, not the ones that are processed or chemically concentrated, have preservatives or refrigerated. All those are artificial human means in the industrialized world to be keeping them for a longer period. So here comes the problem of processing. Because processing, you are adding certain elements or removing certain elements from the seed which was not natural. In fact, the seed was meant to sprout and germinate and create a plant. And there you are, you plucked out the seed, did all these chemical changes, and now you're trying to consume. Anything the body does not understand, it will store it for a later date. Just like hoarding. Some people, if they have 2 TVs, they'll buy a third TV. 2 laptops, they'll buy a third laptop. 2 cars, buy a third car. They keep hoarding. The body, evolution-wise, has seen so many famines and struggle, starvation, that anytime it sees some molecule or calorie-dense thing, it will just store it. Today, 20% of the calories are coming from vegetable oil. And it used to be a very minuscule percentage back 100 years ago. 20 times we have increased our consumption of these oils. And all these oils, we will come to the third point, which is about the deleterious health effects. All these oils have deleterious health effects because of this unnatural processing that undergoes. The molecule that is there itself undergoes even more unstabilization. So what are those deleterious health effects? Let's talk about it. The deleterious health effects in any vegetable oil is because of this molecule called omega-6. Omega-6 is a pro-inflammatory molecule, which means it increases inflammation in the body. And the inflammation in the body is twofold. The inflammation can be thrombogenic, which is formation of blood clots, and it can be atherogenic, which is the formation of cholesterol plaques. So that is the biggest problem of omega-6. It is thrombogenic, causing the blood to become thicker, pro-inflammatory, because this is a pro-inflammatory molecule. That is the most important thing I want you to know. Omega-6, which is a polyunsaturated fatty acid, is pro-inflammatory. And because it is pro-inflammatory, polyunsaturated fatty acid, omega-6, it is causing all these effects. Thrombogenic, increased blood clots; atherogenic, increased cholesterol plaques. Now think about it. I earlier told you that PUFA, or polyunsaturated fatty acid, the main ingredient of vegetable oils, is extremely chemically labile or unstable, structurally unstable. The polyunsaturated fatty acids is very much sensitive to heat, air, and light. So when you have a bottle of olive oil, even any oil, sitting in your house, and you are exposing it to air all the time because there's some air inside, it is getting oxidized. If you have bright light coming from the sun or somewhere, it is getting oxidized. If you are heating the oil in a frying pan, it is getting oxidized. All this oxidation leads to formation of FRO, free radical oxygen particles. So free radical oxygen is basically in a molecule of vegetable oil. If you have these stressors, the heat, light, air stressors, it breaks, and one of the electrons, 2 electrons are present in each molecule, 1 electron is just vibrated out. So now the molecule has become unstable. Number of protons and electrons are not matching, so it has become unstable. That we call a free radical. So it is very agitated, just like an angry person, very agitated, knocking on things and breaking things. So free radical can be hydroxyl radicals, can be nitrosyl NO radicals, different kinds of free radicals, but basically they are unpaired electron in a molecule that is causing damage to the tissues, the DNA, the chromosomal structure, and causing a variation of mutations, and all those mutations will cause all the problems, including chronic inflammation, including carcinogen, cancer formation, and including thrombogenic, atherogenic effects. Thrombogenic causing blood clots, atherogenic causing cholesterol plaques. Think about it. What happens? You have so much of atheroma or a cholesterol plaque. The cholesterol plaque is known to be causing all these problems. You might have heard that the cholesterol plaques builds up in the endothelium of the blood vessel. So you have a blood vessel, and there you have the constant stress of blood flowing through the vessel, and then the shearing effect on the walls happens. So there is endothelial injury, or the intima, innermost layer. 3 layers are there in the blood vessel wall: the adventitia, media, and intima. The intima is the innermost layer. So the innermost layer is getting agitated by the blood flow all the time. So there will be some injury, and there will be formation of some cholesterol plaques, and then there will be calcification. More the lipid content in the cholesterol plaque, more the labile or rupture tendency for that cholesterol plaque. The moment it ruptures, releases the lipids in the blood, you have formation of heart attacks, you have strokes, you can have gangrene, peripheral arterial disease. All those things of plumbing or occlusion in the blood vessels can happen. So those are the effects of cholesterol plaques. Very common in elderly, you will see heart attacks and strokes because they have a high cholesterol plaque burden. Similarly, there will be a thrombogenic, because once the blood vessel leaks, the body tries to clot the blood vessel. So it sends the coagulation factors. And the clotting is excess, it can block the whole blood vessel. That's how you get occlusion, heart attacks, and strokes. So thrombogenic, atherogenic, everything underlines the instability of polyunsaturated fatty acids, which leads to formation of free radicals. The free radical oxygen will cause damage to the walls of the blood vessels, hence cholesterol plaques. If it is the brain, it will cause damage to the neurons, hence amyloid plaques and Alzheimer's. If it is your lungs, it will cause damage to the lining of the airways and hence bronchospasm and asthma. If it is your joints, it will cause damage to the synovial membranes, hence the osteoarthritis and degenerative disc disease. If it is your bowel, it will cause the irritation of the nerves there, so you'll have irritable bowel. So skin, it will cause the formation of eczema. Anything that is pro-inflammatory will cause the problems. So that is the one problem of omega-6 instability. The other factor of omega-6 instability is directly related to the heat factor. So whenever vegetable oil is being used for cooking, you will see our grandmas and elderly will never use the same oil to cook again. But in restaurants, you are getting the fried food and deep fried food and yesterday's buffet today. So you will get the same food that is reheated every time. Once you heat the oil, whether it is any vegetable oil, there will be more instability and hence more breakdown of the PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are basically linolenic acid. LA is the most common fatty acid. So that will break down and cause formation of trans fat. The trans fat is extremely dangerous because it causes heart attacks and other problems because it disturbs the balance of omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-6 is inflammatory, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. Anti-inflammatory, low inflammation is what we need in our body for longevity, and that is coming from walnuts, flax seeds, certain animals like salmon, avocados. Those are the main sources. Chia seeds. Omega-6 is all your vegetable oils, pro-inflammatory. Small quantity is okay, but too much. The ratio used to be 1:1, omega-6 to omega-3, 100 years ago. Now it is 20:1. Too much of linolenic acid, linoleic acid is in the body. And actually, if you think about steroids, which are anti-inflammatory, they act on the phospholipase A2, PLA2 enzyme, which is basically breaking the membrane phospholipids. When this enzyme acts, there is formation of arachidonic acid metabolites. And linoleic acid is also forming in the body arachidonic acid. So this is all inflammatory pathway. PUFA is linoleic acid, which forms in the body arachidonic acid and leads to formation of cytokines and leukotrienes, LKs. Cytokines, leukotrienes, they are involved in all the inflammation in the body. So you see how every disease is leading to inflammation, and vegetable oils are leading to chronic inflammation. From there comes this disruption of omega-6, omega-3 balance, whether from the trans fat or in general because omega-6 are overleading the omega-3. So this disruption itself can cause autoimmune disorders, chronic conditions, especially metabolic conditions, because these are problems of hoarding. Energy dense molecules are being hoarded in the body for later use. Anything the body cannot understand, it will store it in the adipose tissue for later use. Because it's energy dense, I cannot let it go. Let me hoard it. There will be one day when a famine comes. The problem is, famine does not come anymore. Everybody is having too much of food resources in their body, in their belly, and that is why we are more fat and we are more getting fat unknowingly, because we are eating all these unnatural processed foods, whether they are refined carbohydrates or vegetable oils. Problem is, body cannot process it, body stores it in the adipose tissue. And it's not about calories in and calorie out. It's not that if you eat less calories, then you will be leaner. The kind of calorie you eat is important. If the calorie is something the body cannot break down, it will store in the adipose tissue. It will be stubborn belly fat, which is the worst kind of fat considered for risk of metabolic syndrome. So my friends, that is the pro-inflammatory component of omega-6. Anyways, the last thing I want to talk about is the heating. I was telling you about this pathway actually. Trans fat and arachidonic acid metabolites both are inflammatory. Steroids are used to break the phospholipase A2. But if you eat anti-inflammatory food, in general, if you eat less of linoleic acid, less of omega-6, there is less formation of arachidonic acid. And arachidonic acid is the fatty acid, which is responsible for all the inflammation. So that is why fasting works, because you have reduced the body store, and any fat that is stored in your cholesterol plaques on your adipose tissue, they are being broken down by the body. And that is the beauty. First, body will deplete the glycogen, then it will deplete the fat. And what is this fat? Adipose tissue fat or cholesterol plaques? Total removal of the cholesterol plaques naturally happens during fasting. And arachidonic acid is what will cause a chronic inflammation in every single organ of your body. The last thing I want to tell you is about the heat let's write it down here. So the heat can cause formation of free radical oxygen. The heat can cause formation of trans fat. And the third thing is, heat can cause formation of aldehydes. Aldehydes are the breakdown products from the polyunsaturated fatty acids. Same aldehydes that are released during smoking cigarettes. In fact, they say 1 tablespoon of polyunsaturated fatty acid or vegetable oil is as good as smoking 2 cigarettes. So the aldehydes are known carcinogens which are causing cancer in the body. So vegetable oils in that regard are also carcinogenic, or there is a risk of causing cancer because of all the processing, because of all the heat generating the aldehydes. And aldehydes, just like smoking cigarettes can cause cancer, vegetable oils can also be a source of cancer. So that is why you should not heat the oils for long. You should not heat the oils repeatedly. Once the oil has been heated and you have eaten the oil and leftover is there, throw away the oil. Never reheat the oil, because then the aldehyde and the trans fat composition goes up exponentially. You might be saving $1 on the oil, but you will get long-term chemotherapy and dialysis for the rest of your life. So please don't put in these toxins in your body and limit the use of vegetable oils. So these are some of the points I wanted to make. Now I told you all about these unhealthy vegetable oils. Mostly they are seed oils, because seed wanted to germinate and you chemically extracted it. It's going against nature. Remember that. So that oil that you can use, which ones are those? As I said before, anything in the tropics. Tropics are teeming with life. Equator is where life started. Temperate or the poles are where life stops. So that is why if you want to bring in life in your body, high pranic foods, you're always going to eat the saturated fats. Cow's ghee, grass-fed pasteurized butter. Then you can use coconut oil, cocoa oil, macadamia oil. Those are fine. And then you can also go for sauteing. So you can use olive oil or macadamia oil or avocado oil? Actually, between olive and avocado, I would say better to use avocado oil, because the smoke point, the point at which the formation of tar and hydroxide and aldehyde happens during high heat, and the smoke point of avocados is higher than the olive oil. The lowest smoke point you will find in the temperate oils, the seed oils, sunflower, safflower, canola. These are not good oils, because all these oils, whatever is liquid now, is bad, because then it will have a very low smoke point. So that is the problem. Now, let's just summarize the whole thing. Vegetable oils are chemically extracted from vegetables by industrial processes involving refining, heating, addition of synthetic antioxidants, addition of anti-foaming agents. All these chemicals are new to the body in evolution. We are not used to it, so the body does not know what to do with it. The body, these are energy dense lipids, fats, so the body stores it. It stores it as adipose tissue in our belly, as well as cholesterol plaques in the body, in the blood vessels. And that is what triggers chronic inflammation, because vegetable oils are chemically polyunsaturated fatty acids, most likely LA or linoleic acid, which is converted in the body to arachidonic acid. And arachidonic acid is what causes all the inflammation in the body. Hence, omega-6, PUFA, LA, arachidonic acid causes chronic inflammation. The chronic inflammation manifests in the body as pro-inflammatory factors, atherogenic, which is buildup of cholesterol plaques, hence risk of heart attacks and strokes, peripheral arterial disease, as well as thrombogenic, which is making the blood thick, prothrombotic, making the blood extremely liable to forming coagulation. And that is why in cancer patients, which is chronic inflammation state, you have lot of blood clots form in the body, because of all the damage to the blood vessel wall, because it tries to repair the blood vessel wall once there is formation of atheroma, and then the break causes the coagulation factors to just bubble up and create a cascade of blockage, and hence the blood flow cannot go there and ischemia happens. So those are the effects of the omega-6 pro-inflammatory molecule, which has to be balanced with omega-3s, and omega-3s are always rich in olive oil, avocado, as well as mostly natural foods like flax, chia, hemp, salmon and eggs. Those are the main sources. Now, once you know that this is bad, remember that the worst thing than eating vegetable oils is to heat the oil and reheat the oil. Deep fried foods, prolonged fried foods, storing the food and eating it again tomorrow in a microwave, you heat it again. The remaining oils are again getting heated. When they get heated again, there is free radicals. And these free radical formation, because of the instability of the structural PUFA, leads to formation of all these free radicals needed damage from chronic inflammation, as well as formation of trans fat, as well as formation of aldehydes. Trans fats can lead to formation of heart diseases. Aldehydes are carcinogenic, just like a smoking cigarette, and can lead to different cancers. And all the processing that we talked about, whether it is exposure to hexane, exposure to the antioxidants like TBHQ, anti-foaming agents such as DMP, the idea is you are not eating something that is natural. You have refined, double refined, triple refined. The more you refine, the more chemicals you're exposing yourself to. That is why it is better to eat in the natural state. Even mustard oil, which is unrefined, is better than eating all the sunflower, safflower, triple refined oils from the West. So my friends, these are the detrimental effects of vegetable oils. Try to limit the content of vegetable oils you eat. Definitely don't heat it for long. Never reheat the oil that you have used once. Just throw away. Don't eat that oil. And try to eat the healthy saturated equatorial oils or the tropical oils. The equatorial oils being coconut oil, cocoa butter, cow ghee, butter, as well as the tropical oils which are olive and avocado. Those are better. And the worst are, of course, the sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, cotton, corn, canola. Those you should not eat at all, because those are the oils that are causing the pro-inflammation, free radical oxygen, arachidonic acid metabolites to the formation of aldehydes as well as trans fat. And that is what you should not be doing. I hope this lecture was helpful. Please feel free to leave your comments below. Jai Shri Ram.